and the other is cleaning and servicing the engine. You all know how I feel about Janet sometimes. I'm really excited because I love cesarean. I got a story to tell. ¿Y puedo ver aquí? So this doggy has a tumour that is transmitted sexually. So she needs to have chemotherapy treatment as well as to be spayed. So we're going to help get that done for her because she's been adopted as a street dog by this very kind lady. So, hey my girl. Well, basically we're in the position where some of the jobs that we kind of had put aside for Will with his expertise, we are now obviously tackling ourselves. Two such jobs are reconnecting the batteries and all of the electrical systems that we had to disconnect when the welding was getting done and when we were doing some other things that needed the electricity to be undone. And the other is cleaning and servicing the engine. You all know how I feel about Janet sometimes, but we have no choice. But the first step is cleaning poor Janet, because in everything she's gotten very dust covered. We did have her covered, but it only did so much. And then cleaning all these bilge compartments so I can then put the batteries back here and reconnect everything. So first step, cleaning. So the alternator is already detached from the engine right now, so I don't need to worry too much about it. The other things that we've got to be kind of careful with when we're cleaning, obviously electrical connections, like electrical connections can get wet and be okay, but you want to be careful with them. We don't want to soak the starting motor. We don't want to like soak in, for example, like with these types of things where we've got like a kind of junction box for wires, because if water gets in there, it might not dry properly. Whereas if a little water gets on this with nothing connected, it probably won't be the very end of the world. But we want to try and avoid the wires as best we can. And then right here is where my air intake attaches. And we really, really don't want too much shit getting in there, and we really, really don't want water getting in there, because if water gets into your air intake, it can be very, very bad for Janet. So I'm going to stuff that, tape it. I'm going to try to tape over any major electrical connections after I give them a dust off, and that way when we're cleaning, yeah, hopefully things stay a little neater. I'm your dream, I'm nothing in between, you want it any other way. So I've just wiped it all down with some degreaser and detergent, and now, I know it might not seem like a great idea to have a hose in a boat, but I'm just going to very gently spray some of the areas that were kind of harder to get to, trying not to get any water on electrical bits or anywhere it shouldn't go. And I'm also going to be spraying the floors a little bit, try and just get rid of any grease in them, vacuum it up with the wet to dry vac, and hopefully we'll have a clean engine.
If you want to do the last little summary film, and then we'd go take a shower.
All right, it took like, was it 3 hours, you reckon? 3 hours, but it looks so much better. So now we can start the servicing process in the next couple of days. So yeah, start looking at getting the batteries back in, as well as yeah, getting the engine serviced. I am about as dirty as the engine was. Jim's been taping downstairs so that we can do more bottom paint. And yeah, progress being made.
Salmon.
Alrighty, so we've got little Pacha Pachita here, and she is her surgery to spay her. And so this is important because she has a contagious tumour that can be spread if she has sex with other dogs. So we obviously don't want it to spread to other dogs when she comes on heat, but also spaying her will help reduce, it can be a hormone-driven tumour, so it'll help make it, it'll improve it. While we try and find the drug that cures it, which we're having a lot of trouble finding, but this will be the first step in making sure she's comfortable, and it'll definitely help a lot. And we'll be able to have a bit of a better look inside there and see how it's looking and check her vagina and everything too. So, yeah. So she's been biting herself because of the tumour, but you can see the tumour here. It looks quite infected. So we're going to put her on antibiotics as well for after the surgery. Not only was the vincristine, a type of chemotherapy, very hard to find, but it's also notoriously expensive. A course, which usually consists of a weekly injection for 5 weeks, can cost up to $400 per patient for the drug alone. But we were really determined to help this family and Pachita. Wow. Should be safe to say 2 successful surgeries today, which is nice. 2 doggy spayed, no more bebés. And it also just like very typical of a day for us where we go with one plan and then do something completely different. We just roll with it though. Before we started Pachita's surgery, we helped Brenda with a number of other cases, and on the way out to the boat the next day, we had another rescued patient to check over very quickly.
¿Cómo se llama este animalito?
Trepador.
Trepador.
Se trató de su nido allá en los cabos.
Wow. Me gusta mucho.
Apenas hoy
solamente canguros.
Sí, y koalas, sí, exacto.
Un koala para hacerlo.
Solo koalas in los arboles. So, plan of attack today with the engine is starting simple and work my way to the harder stuff. So I'm going to start with just belts. Well, actually, probably not even the belts yet. Just probably doing the pipes first, making sure my hose clamps are good, that kind of thing. Then once I've checked all the pipes, I'll then move on to harder things like putting alternators back on and pulling apart raw water pumps to replace impellers and things like that. So I'm going to start with the fresh water system, which is where we've got the coolant coming through the pump, down into the pipes and into back up into the heat exchanger there. Now, basically, this pipe has, this is his newer part, has this stopper in it. And when you take the stopper out, you, in theory, can drain all of your coolant out in a neat way. We will find out how neat that shall be right now. So awkward. So that won't work because the screw head is too straight. Whoops. I'm also working on no floor right now. So what I think I'm going to do is undo this one first and then try put that up in the air so we're not getting a leak from down here. Catch whatever I can from the runoff of this one, stuff a rag in it, then tip this upside down and catch the runoff from it, and then hopefully that will allow me to change the pipe. All right, trying to undo the bloody hose clamp back here. It's in a real awkward position. Oh, nice. That turned out easier than I expected. This is where you feel lucky to be small. It's kind of almost like had a leak around the, I'll get in there and show you. It's had a leak around the, let's see. Alright, so there's been a leak around this pipe, and so you can see the coolant's kind of caused a bit of like corrosion, and this is like really wedged itself in place with the corrosion as well. Now we've got that pipe off, you can see how nasty that looks, where the pipe was connected to going into the heat exchanger. So I'm going to give that a really good clean, sand it up nicely, and maybe even throw a little bit of the rust protecting paint on the edges of it, yeah, to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So, as always, start off with a few jobs and then you add more. The engine, I gave it a really good sand, clean and paint about a year ago. There's some spots that have started rusting up again, especially around the coolant tank. So I've started sanding that, but you can see it's pretty rusty, so I want to get that cleaner. Now I have taken off the saltwater pipe here, which comes down and around and joins to the saltwater pump here onto this pipe. It's looking pretty nice and clean. I'll give that a bit of a clean up, but I have lost another impeller arm. Last time I was able to actually flush it through, but since we've kind of got the time for this to be messed up, I'm going to try take the heat exchanger cover off and have a look what's going on in there, because when I took, as you saw, when I took the coolant pipe off, the freshwater pipe, there was a lot of sediment in there, which means there's a lot of sediment sitting in and around the heat exchanger possibly. So I just want to take a look and see what I can do there. So just loosening these bolts now.
The heat exchanger saga is a story for another day. With typhoid symptoms setting in, Jim and I had not yet realised quite how sick we were. With a plan to take Sunday off, we were called out to see a few unexpected patients. Rocky, a 15-year-old ex-street dog, had been hit by a moto BC. With a complete fracture of his lower femur, we stabilised it with a bandage and a splint technique. But that wasn't to be the end of our Sunday rest day.
Well, after an already very busy Sunday with animals, we just got a call from the vet clinic, and it seems that they have a cesarean that needs to be done. So we packed all our stuff up and we are going to be off to do an emergency cesarean in the dark by torchlight. Okay.
Cesareans are your favorite?
I'm really excited because I love cesareans. Puppies. People can tell we're foreign with the mask on right away. Another puppy's really, really close. I can like almost grab it, but she's not pushing. Oh, she's so... Ella está muy grande, no, yo pienso que tiene muchos peritos. Está sangrando la nariz. She's had 2 puppies, but it was like 7 hours apart, which is too much. She's had injections of oxytocin to try and get the puppies going, but she's just not pushing. So she actually has one in the canal right now, and the placenta has broken, but she's not pushing it out, which is a sign the puppy will die quickly if we don't do something. So, and she also has a lot more puppies to come, and so it's getting more and more difficult for her to keep trying to push these puppies out. So, cesarean time. Okay. When they're not breathing, a really good option is to give them this, which is doxapram, and it stimulates the respiratory system. You just put a drop under their little baby tongue and they start breathing. We'll get that ready to go. ¿Ah? Ayúdame con esto. Vamos.
Mira, todo aquí arriba está.
Oh, ¿tú quieres ir allí?
Venga, pollo.
Don't go near the puppy. Después tenemos todos los perritos. Solamente pone un poco de gelesina así, ahí todavía un poco más, pero posiblemente puede continuar solo con eso.
¿Qué cayó?
Oh, amorita. Siente muy diferente, ¿no?
She has ringworm too.
Yes, she has ringworm just like me. Ella tiene muchos. Cuidado, todos la gente que toca ella. There's a really good blood supply to the milk as well, is the other thing that makes it kind of more difficult. It's really easy to cut a lot of big blood vessels. Hey, Dad. So she's so full up of puppies. I'm just being really careful to lift this away from the uterus as much as I can. So when I stab through, I don't stab her uterus. Let's see.
No, es el líquido del abdomen.
Mm-hmm.
9.
Y ahora, yo quiero.
Uy, ese es un lado nomás.
So, in an ideal world, this surgery isn't done surrounded by chickens or with the uterus spilling over the edge of the surgical site. But we are used to working in less than ideal conditions, and we knew we just had to get this job done the very best we could.
Ok, ¿quién quiere ese perrito? Uno. Y abrir y poner la vivitra. Y yo tengo un otro. Okay, so as I remove the puppies, I'm putting really gentle traction on the placenta, trying not to break it. Well, I'm trying to separate it, but slowly and naturally, so she doesn't bleed too much. So I'm just putting gentle traction on the placenta in the way it would have gone. And then I remove the placenta and the puppy. Okay. So basically when you do this, you try and have two teams, because my focus has to be mum. And as you can see, my focus has to be mum. And someone's focus has to be the puppies. How tight's her jaw, babe?
Pretty tight.
Do you mind just putting a needle on that other ketamine over there, babe? Sitting on the table.
This was right about when Jim got a crash course in puppy resuscitation.
Okay, so what you're going to do is get some gauze there. You're going to rub the shit out of it. Really rub it, clean around its little face, and really rub its body, and then put a drop. So holding him like that, and hold his little head, and really just give him a strong rubbing. Yeah. And if you can find that Vipipram, put a drop under his tongue. Yeah. ¿Tiene algo para la cargón? Así para estetoscopio? Sí. Yo pienso yo tengo posiblemente ahí en la caja negro. ¿Seis? ¿Seis?
They got us.
¿Sí? Dice 6. sé.
No, you said 6, didn't you?
No, I said 8.
Oh.
Yo dije 7.
Yeah.
Sí, es cerca. Ah, sí, tú dijiste era 9, ¿no?
9.
Normalmente yo hice uno simple,
Continuo,
sí, y después yo pone uno que es una inversión.
Imaginal.
Exacto, sí.
With all the puppies out, I started closing the incision in the uterus, while everybody else focused on saving the very unwell puppies. I also took the time to teach Brenda my techniques for cesareans. She'd only ever done the surgery on chihuahuas, so it was a great experience for both of us to work together.
Just gonna give these to him. Alright, so the good news is we managed to get 2 puppies out of the cesarean that are alive and well, and this little guy made it through natural birth. She lost 1 puppy at around midday today, which was the first one she gave birth to. This little fella followed around 7:30, so that's a really long time between puppies, and it meant by the time we went into the surgery, the puppies were really stressed. We had 2 more that we managed to keep alive for a little while, but unfortunately they just didn't make it. So yeah, so it's sad when you lose a few, but given how long she was in labour for with no puppies, the fact that we got 3 live ones is very good news. You can see they're extraordinarily cute. And we've also saved Mama, because obviously with stuck puppies she would not have done well and would have died eventually as well. So all in all, a good success. Hey Mama girl. And it's now around 11 o'clock at night, so we can go rest. What a Sunday. You gonna go for Mama on your own?
The end is in sight for getting Chuffed back in the water, and we couldn't have done it without you all. We have another spay and neuter campaign coming up, and you can help us get Chuffed ready to sail again and save more animals by becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month for things like live updates, discounts on merchandise, and much more. Until next time, stay chuffed, everybody.